Been living at this Camphill Village now since July 2016. That's just above a little over half a year been living here. And one thing that I realized that I truly, truly appreciate and value after coming here and becoming used to living in this village is work. And by work, I mean physical labor. Many a days I become quite, what shall I say, sweaty from working, doing hard, sometimes pretty hard labor. And that is really something that I appreciate and value with this life here. Now, the Camphill and you might say antroposophical or Christian way of life, uh, globally or just locally, um, is not equal, is not the same, is not equal to the rest of the society. Like in Norway, for instance, I can use that example. In Norway, we are in many ways different than with the other more, what shall I say, cultural or consumer traditions that are out there in Norway. Uh, Details, of course, or you might say, of course, uh, how we practice preparing food, how we practice what type of food we eat, why we eat the food that we eat, how we live with animals according to animals, and how we treat our animals, how we value that work, working very variated, have lots of usually lots of variations within what we actually do with work, and being quite established, very well established, I might say, and very safely and sound established as a physical and very well run, I might add, organization and establishment in very much in the western part of the world, having that anthroposophical slash Rudolf Steiner slash Carl Koenig view of the holistical, you might say, have a farther approach or farther depth to it than the perhaps Christian traditional Lutheran Norwegian home that I grew up with in a more or lesser degree, of course. So adjusting to this life here, being living here now for half a year, I very much like it. I have my schedule, I have my work, I have my things that I do. I have, among other things, that I go swimming once a week, and I also do swim in a hall, and how I enjoy to in the summertime to take a bath in the fjord just out here, and to just be around other people in a humane very open way. Of course, we have always those moments of, you might say, conflict or reactions, or going into anger or depression or frustration, or somewhat mixture of all these things. So looking at the history of Campbell, really interesting history, as it was created almost by Adolf Hitler from his invading Austria, and then therefore Karl König and his family had to flee to Scotland, and then the creation of Camphill in 1939 and 1940. So, um, being a destonian, you might say, living in a Camphill, knowing and realizing how very many people in the antroposophic or Camphill or Steiner environment, or environment, or gatherings and so on, view themselves as pioneers because of the differences and the changes, you might say, from the ordinary, more, and I do mean more consumer oriented world. Uh, what I'm trying to point out here is that I am a pioneer within an environment of pioneers. Meaning again that Campbell villages and such a culture and such a traditions and such a, you might say, belief and example and responsibility, I would like to add also, is very well established. It's been going on for 50 years in Norway, since the 1960s in Norway. So walking my process in the Camphill environment of southwest Norway, Hogganvik Camphill is really a honor and a deep-seated sense of respect and consideration to how that is possible, I can be placed here in this village and have my apartment here, as you see, and my food, my electricity, my internet, have my everything here, my everyday life here in this village. Not having to go to the supermarket every day or every other day or every third other day. Not even by far. I go to the supermarket perhaps once a week. And that alone is a big relief. That's a great relief for me. And to walk my process of self-forgiveness, becoming responsible with myself, becoming honest with myself, establishing a safe and sound self-awareness of myself, letting the physical be in, you might say, charge or direction or drive with self-honesty, and not always being, what shall I say, entertained by my own mind, not being directed or yeah, controlled by my mind, as I have been for several decades before starting walking my destiny I process with self-forgiveness. So that is like a Russian nursing doll. Within the Russian nursing doll concept, you might say that I am living a pioneer process, living as a destonian, walking self-forgiveness, walking self-responsibility, self-honesty inside the more established community of pioneers of camp pillars of antroposophy and what Rudolf Steiner taught us. So, and by that notion, I could picture myself as I'm cared for. I managed to create a lot of care and support and trust in my life to establish myself living here in this protected, yes, environment with this quality, I might say, uh, quality and more sane traditions that, but of course there is all sorts also here. So realizing my creation, I managed to land here. I managed to find myself here in this village, here on this spot, in this condition, with my diagnosis, with my everything that is within my dimensions of being Tormud, with being a living, breathing human on this earth, and then to realize that hey, I have to forgive myself for the decades where I was living as mind energy slave. So that is my perspective after half a year living in a Camphill village in southwest Norway. Very much satisfied and happy for living here. Grateful, and thank you for walking with me this process. Thanks for watching and enjoy.